Hello and welcome to Politics Today. I'm Farrukh Pitafi. Once again, we are going to talk about two or three very major, trends that are going on. One is gradual decimation of PDM, Pakistan Democratic Movement. It was quite clear when there was fight for the post of opposition leader or Senate at that time, that both parties had drifted apart because it was natural. People's Party refused to resign from the parliament, and it seemed that Maulana Fazlur Rahman and PMLN were adamant that they have to actually resign. That is not all. We know that there was some kind of infighting within PMLN as well, because the matter of succession after Mian Nawaz Sharif seems to be also a big one that PMLN refuses to resolve. Hamza Shahbaz was freed from incarceration and he came back. At that time, it was thought that maybe he's going to be the CM of Punjab if they try to bring down the Buzdar government. But amazingly, it seems that of all the people, Maryam Nawaz is not into it, because of course it is going to strengthen one flank of the party. Having said that, we have seen that People's Party gradually keeps on gaining more ground by actually asserting itself and highlighting its democratic and parliamentary credentials. On the other side, yesterday, if you remember, we tried to do justice to the changes in the cabinet. One change that was quite visible was the finance minister. And this was imperative because the finance minister had actually lost the election in the Senate. And after that, because he was made a minister for 6 months, and any minister who is not part of the parliament for 6 months cannot stay in that capacity, and he could not, as an advisor, had half of the bodies under the ministry. So finally we saw some change, but after that we saw a barrage of interesting reports, more or less written by the same person, it seems, because the structure was the same, the idea was the same, the sequence of the possible changes was the same. It seemed that there is going to be a major cabinet reshuffle, in which various ministries were highlighted that they may lose ground. They may see some change, actually, change of leadership. And in that, speculation was rife, but after that we haven't seen substance coming out of those reports so far. I'm not saying that it is not going to happen. The problem is, so far it hasn't happened yet. It kind of actually gives a bad impression that there is, within the cabinet, there is a jockeying that goes on. We are going to talk about all these matters, the PDM and the government as well. And in order to help us understand these issues, we are joined by Ahmed Jawad Saab, Central Secretary Information, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Also, last time when he was booked for the show, at that time he couldn't make it. I told you that there was a personal loss in the family. Kamal Nasir Sahiba, a very legendary PTV personality, is his mother-in-law. I'm going to condole as well. My condolences. We are going to talk about that as well. But let me bring in the other guest, Farid Rais, senior journalist. Actually, senior or not, he is a journalist and he is a smart one. Farid, thank you very much for being part of the program. Then we are joined by Barrister Asad Rahim Khan, who's a legal expert, but also an anchor, a columnist, and a prolific writer. Thank you very much, Asad, for being part of the program. And then we will be joined by another analyst on telephone later. When he does, I'm going to introduce him. But Ahmed Jawad Saab, first of all, accept my condolences. If you want to talk about Kamal Nasir Sahiba, please do, and then we can talk about the cabinet.
Farrukh, very briefly, because I think there is already a lot of discussion appreciating her and recalling her achievement and contribution. I think it is a national loss. It could be a personal loss for me, but I think the biggest loss it is for the Pakistan television.
Yeah,
because from the first moment Pakistan television started, and the last breath she took, she was associated with the television. So 56 years, something which perhaps may not be, performed by anybody else.
Yeah.
So that's something Pakistan television. So it was a history of television which has obviously gone with her.
Yeah, and
So,
rightly, homage has been paid to her correctly. So she was the first announcer as well when PTV was launched, as an institution, newscaster as well, and she has been an institution.
And everything. Yeah,
absolutely. I think the loss is being felt throughout the country. Now, talking about the cabinet reshuffle, why does your own party seem to keep on signaling that it has too much competition within its ranks? That such reports keep on appearing in the paper. You could have actually announced or actually brought about these changes and then announced all this.
I think, Farrukh, if we are leaking this information, then you can ask this question from us. But I think it is media who is always well aware, and I think every cabinet meeting, the discussion, the points, they all come to the media.
Right.
So if there are some discussions going on, so it is being speculated in the media. So it is not the intention of the government to leak the information.
I can read a story
Yeah.
from at least 10 websites, right? News websites.
Yeah.
All different banners, all different channels.
Yeah.
Ditto, the same story. Who is going to lose his post? Who is going to actually bifurcation of this ministry or that? Exactly the same structure.
It is because when one news website publish something, so the 9 just copy that instead of making their own research.
Come on. You're talking about leading houses in the country. Okay.
That's an easy job.
Is there going to be any change in the cabinet soon?
Farrukh, as far as change is concerned, I think there is only one constant in the world, and that is change.
Okay.
So change is part of our life. Change is part of our growth. It is part of our improvement. So change come through, brings improvement, brings growth.
Last time when we voted, the promise was that you were going to change Pakistan, not yourself. And that is
but I think we have to start from ourselves.
And don't keep changing, right? I mean, too much flux isn't good.
What I would say that if I am head of an organization, I have been head of many organizations. You see, there are people which I might have appreciated, admired, marketed, promoted, but after some time, I found some reasons, good reasons, that they should not be at this position.
Okay.
But yes, you can blame me that is it the same person that you are firing today? You have been marketing this person, promoting this person. You see, the circumstances change. And I'm not in picture of those reasons and factors based on what. What we broadly are saying that one thing which we could not control was the inflation.
Right.
And that was hitting every Pakistani, and perhaps accepting that failure, Prime Minister thought that there should be a change.
Right. I'm told that Mohammad Asfar Assun, senior analyst, also joins us on telephone. And I'm going to bring him in. I'm going to actually talk about various aspects as well. But before that, let me go to Fareed Rais. Fareed Rais, is it true that all us journalists keep on copy-pasting the news, and that's why it went this way? And it is not basically competition within government's ranks that might have caused this kind of leak?
Any kind of a leak which comes around is, I believe in this thing that the sources are inside the government, inside the cabinet, inside some of the people who are sitting in the cabinet or some ministers. They have some of the sources, and on the basis of not revealing the sources, the news just leaks out from there. But as far as the news, leaking of the news is concerned.
No, hang on. Do you want me to read the entire story? I can read that on air. And then I can tell you, Geo is reporting that. Nation is reporting that, Dunia, Airway, Sama, the same structure of the story.
The concern over here is not about the leaking of the news. The concern over here is if there is a change in the cabinet, if there is some decisions by the Prime Minister to be made to reshuffle the cabinet, then it should be made public. There is nothing to hide in it, because at the end of the day, these things will be revealed. These things will be announced.
Absolutely.
These things will be published.
Does it also indicate that if the leaks have come out, but reports have not been made public, right? That there is a chance that people are still jockeying for the post, lobbying for the post? If I'm told that tomorrow I'm not going to do this show, right? And then I keep on appearing on the television.
I cannot say with confidence that if what you are asking about, that the people are joking about it, or there is some kind of a lobbying of it. But if there is a change, I believe in this thing, that if the Prime Minister has some kind of, as Ahmed Jawad Saab said, that the basic challenge for this government is to control the inflation. The basic dilemma the government is facing.
And we are going to talk about that. Hang on. We are going to talk about that, but let me actually go to the other two guests. Barrister Asad Rahim Khan, you have two hats, at least two hats. One is, of course, legal expert. Usually we keep on asking you questions regarding that. But today, as a political analyst, I'm going to ask you, what do you make of the political situation? I'm talking about the way government is actually working at this moment, and then PDM as well. Asad Rahim, can you hear me? You'll have to unmute your Skype. Yeah, please go ahead. Well, speak again, sir. Okay. So there seems to be some kind of technical glitch. We are going to get it fixed. Till the time, let me bring in Mohammad Asfar Ahsan Saab. Asfar Saab, thank you very much for joining. Because you focus on economic matters as well, there has been a change at the top of Finance Ministry. Let us begin by taking your input regarding the change. It seems that a lot of people in the business community are happy with the change. Is it true? Asfar Ahsan Saab? Okay. So the day of technical glitches keeps things do happen, and that's okay. Ahmed Jawad Saab, what brought the change of Finance Minister?
Like I was mentioning, that I think if we look at the state of economy, most of the indicators they improved, but there was one thing which we could not control, and that was inflation, especially the food inflation, which directly hits the common man. And there have been a number of attempts to address that problem through the policies, through short-term measures, but I think so far nothing worked. And I think for any political party, any political government, it's a very challenging situation, because every day, because inflation means that every moment, every day, a common man is hit by this challenge. And so a political party which definitely looks for its popularity, which looks for acknowledgement and appreciation of the common man, so it should be a concern for them.
That was the reason why you removed him.
I'm not saying that it could be the only reason. There could be other reasons, but this is something which is very prominent. I mean, not even if I am from PTI, you as an analyst, or Fareed as an analyst, or anybody else, if they have to analyze, they would obviously be mentioning this reason as one of the main reasons. But there could be more reasons, which are not, of course, in my knowledge.
Let us actually first zero in on this explanation, right? The question is, if this issue was quite visible today, was it not only a month ago when you gave him the Senate ticket?
I think every effort has been made if things can work out, but probably in the end, conclusion was that we should not wait anymore.
Right.
So it was a much deliberated decision by the cabinet, by the Prime Minister, and the budget is the next challenge. Right. And I think if we have to make any change, perhaps this was the last time, otherwise you will have to wait till budget.
Right.
So I think this could be the reason not to wait anymore and make this change.
Yeah, but you get the point that when you gave him the Senate ticket, it felt that you want to actually keep him in the cabinet. And when he lost that capacity, this inflationary issue is an afterthought. Let me bring in once again Barrister Asad Rahim. Asad, the same question again. I'm going to ask you to actually comment on both sides. Comment on the government's functioning and whether reform is a good thing, whether bringing about change within the government is good. On the other side, PDM or opposition's politics as well. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me, Farrukh Saab, and my condolences also to Ahmed Saab. I wish his family strength. What I will say, sir, is that as far as the state of the economy is concerned, there are economists who are far better qualified. But speaking purely from a legal and perhaps political perspective, in light of the Islamabad High Court decision, as has already been mentioned by other guests, it would be very difficult for Hafiz Sheikh Saab to run his ministry as a de facto minister when his powers are constrained, whether as an advisor or a special assistant. So his election as senator was rather crucial. Having in Hamad Azhar Saab as an elected minister will free them up certainly more. But I think the core question that one has to ask is, why appoint Mr. Sheikh in the first place? He represents the same brand of Pakistan People's Party era, neoliberalism, dependency on the IMF, caving to these global institutions, and that also not resulting in the sort of structural reforms that will eventually save Pakistan from going to the IMF periodically. So that's what I would say on the economic front. It does not
last time also, when you came to the program, I remember.
We go through.
Asad, last time when you came to the program, it was quite visible that you are not a big fan of Hafiz Sheikh Saab. I understand that. I respect your opinion. But you did something very interesting here. You compared the neoliberal brand with People's Party. People's Party claims to be People's Party. So how do you actually mix up both of these? Asad, can you hear me? Okay. There seems to be some delay. Let me go back to Asfar Hassan Saab once again. Asfar Saab, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me ask you to first comment on the change in the finance ministry. Do you think it is going to deliver results? It is an improvement or it is some kind of regression?
Actually, this is right of any government to change their ministers or their team anytime. But same time, Prime Minister and his top leadership members should understand that country can't afford this change after every few months, because this is third finance minister and fifth chairman of FBR is working right now within 2.5 years. It is extremely risky to continue to play with an already fragile economy. So they should understand that whatever they are changing right now in the coming days, as far as the Petroleum Ministry, Information Ministry, other ministries are concerned, okay, they should change. But they should place the best team, the best individuals, not the loyalists, but the doers in their team or from outside, because next 2 years are very important for this government and for this state as well. So this is their right. We don't have any right to criticize the Prime Minister or his cabinet, but they should understand this ground reality also, because same Dr.
I hope you can hear me as well. I understand that you are both acknowledging the right of government to actually bring about changes in the cabinet. On the other side, you're also, flagging the issue of stability. But here's another question that I have to ask you. Remember when PMLN or People's Party were in power, and at that time the then Prime Ministers had promised that after 100 days they are going to reevaluate the cabinet, and if somebody doesn't perform, they are going to remove them, and we used to give them great grief because they didn't bring about that change. Now, if a government is doing it, why are we complaining?
Actually, I'm not complaining. I already mentioned that this is the right of the government, but too many changes. Let's suppose I mention about the fifth chairman of FBR. So there should be consistency also. And change without any reason or in hurry or the bad decision actually will affect the country, will affect the economy more. So this is my only point. Otherwise, I welcome the change and I wish good luck to Hamad Azhar. He's a very good person individually and with clean background and very hardworking and a true face of the Naya Pakistan or the PTI. So I think we should all support to the new finance team under the leadership of the Prime Minister without any political differences, because what is happening right now, we experience the PDM movement, the rallies and this and that, and despite the few golden opportunities after the corona impact, the country is suffering from the corona, but same time we are receiving the export order. This is a very crucial time. There is a need of unity, and this is the responsibility of the
It is an important point, sir. We are going to actually emphasize that as well. As far as do stay with us, let me go back to Farid Rais, who is very patiently actually waiting for his turn. Farid Rais, you have listened to the participants, right? Now the question, the change that has been brought in, and I'm talking about the finance minister, does it, and it has been flagged again, that FBR has seen many changes, and this is what is going on with the secretaries also, repeated changes with the exception of one secretary, and the CMs, they stay, the PM is there, but a lot of changes. Does it impact stability somehow?
As Aswad said, that it is the prerogative of the Prime Minister to change his team, and as the Prime Minister already have been saying that if a minister is not performing, if his team is not performing, he has the right to change. But on the other way around, at this moment, if you are claiming that the rupee is gaining some strength, and as compared to the dollar, it's 22 months high at this moment. At this moment, if
that is good news actually.
It is a good news, and if the government is claiming that we are going towards a positive direction in terms of the economy, we have the export orders, our current account deficit is in surplus. We are not in deficit, but we are in the surplus. The only thing which remains and which matters is the inflation. Now, what we are hearing...
No, it is not the only thing.
No, just let me complete.
It might be the biggest thing.
It's not my claim. The basic thing which the government and the government representatives and the spokesmen are just claiming that we have removed Hafiz Sheikh Saab due to inflation. If it is the only thing, then till now all these figures and all these figures Hafiz Sheikh Saab should be complimented for doing all these efforts also.
When you actually heard the information minister actually talking about inflation, after that we saw a very gentle and kind of statement also came, a tweet, in which he said that he has performed greatly and he is admired because at that time of crisis he worked hard. So I don't think that it is essentially about only inflation.
It could be many elements also, as we have discussed, as Asad also told, and as you also discussed in the start also, that Hafiz Sheikh Saab, the situation which Hafiz Sheikh Saab was facing, and that was the situation at the moment when the government decided to contest him in the Senate elections also. So at this moment,
so it was very easy explanation. Why did the government go for
but the basic thing which I like to comment over it, that as our participants told before, that it's not very good to change the team very frequently, because in order to achieve the stability, in order to achieve the challenges, we should maintain a team, a finance team, because at this moment the economic challenges are one of the biggest issues this government.
You play cricket, Farid?
Very often.
Huh?
Very not often. Not often. Yeah.
Okay, but the Prime Minister actually prides in the fact that he used to shuffle his team in cricket, and that's why he got the best results. So you have to actually bear that in mind as well. Ahmed Jawad Saab, you want to actually clarify what has been said, especially that not only finance ministers change, the secretaries and FBR chief, they changing and frequently. Fifth FBI chief. That is a big news. That could have impacted a lot of issues.
Farrukh, as a management expert, I have my own experience of heading different organizations. I think even at times, rapid changes are contributing towards growth of the organization. And the reason is that
growth of the organization, as in the cabinet. You make
no.
a person a minister after a few months, then he becomes a liability. You have to park him somewhere else and bring in somebody else.
It's like that on a stage, somebody has a role.
Yeah.
He has performed his role. And from then onwards, the nature of the challenge and the nature of expectation from him is changing. So you change the role. So it's not very big thing. And if you apply in your normal life, you will find it that you gave the example of the cricket. In cricket, there might be an opener who can stay on the wicket, but he cannot cannot hit sixes and fours. And he might be retaining his wicket till the last overs. So you must have seen that such batsman is given a signal by the captain that you come out and somebody else should go, because now we require somebody to hit over the fence. So it does not mean that he was playing bad. It is just the nature of the role has changed with the passage of time, and to suit that, another person is required who can perhaps.
So you have actually talked about, you have called the former finance minister Misbah of our team.
So that means he was a good batsman.
Yeah.
But now perhaps you need somebody who can hit the ball, you know.
Okay, so Hamad Azhar
you
is going to...
You need Shahid Afridi at this stage.
Hamad, yeah, but he throws the wicket quite often. But the question is, should we expect inflation to go down?
Yes. There are two reasons.
No, I'm not going to take reasons right now. Asad Rahim Sahab, once again, if you want to finish the previous thought, at that time I was talking to you. I got the impression you thought that I was talking to anybody else. You actually, brought up People's Party and then Hafiz Sheikh Sahab and then mixed them up and called them neoliberal thought. So I was a bit surprised at that, and I sought some explanation. But you can talk about the possibility of the new team that is actually taking over to reform the system and improve the quality of governance. Please go ahead.
No, Farrukh Saab, I'll explain myself. I think I did mention Hafiz Sheikh Saab, Pakistan People's Party and neoliberalism in the same sentence, so that is on me. But People's Party has come quite some distance from the Islamic socialism of the 1970s. It remains essentially another party that takes us to the IMF. And hence my surprise and the surprise of many other people that Mr. Sheikh Saab, who is a technocrat known for his ties to the IMF, and I don't want to go over well-treaded ground, would be restored as special advisor on finance in a PTI government, in a Tabdili government. I think what has been said already previously, that it doesn't bode well if you're changing finance ministers 3 times in 2 years, is very much accurate. Because this is a very large country, it has a very complex financial and economic system. And to turn the ship around from Mr. Asad Omar to Mr. Hafiz Sheikh to now Mr. Hamad Azhar is going to take a while, and you need to repose confidence in them to be able to push through the long-term structural reforms that will eventually liberate us of the IMF. So long answer to your short question, and very pertinent question.
Okay. Let me again ask you another very important question. You just, at the start of your discussion, when you were actually talking about Hafiz Sheikh Saab's removal, you actually pointed out because of the Islamabad High Court's verdict, this had to be done. A big concern that one sees, and parliamentary democracy, what it is not, there is no assurance that every technocrat is going to sit in the parliament, and there come times when the government needs somebody from outside. Shouldn't the system actually relax the possibility of engaging people, because there seems to be a lot of restriction in the law that you can have only so many advisors and only so many SAPMs, and that actually causes a lot of turbulence as we are seeing right now.
Well, I think anyone who would look at the performance of Dr. Sania Nishtar, Dr. Faisal Sultan would be very confident that there is a place, even within a parliamentary democracy, of senior technocrats running these technical fields. But that would again take us back to, Farrukh Saab, the need for this government to extend a hand to the opposition and get into the business of constructive policy making and constructive legislation. The Islamabad High Court, in its infinite wisdom, only interpreted the law, and the law is clear that there is a limit to advisors, there is no limit to special assistants, but even then, neither of them can be running their ministries as fully empowered constituency voted through parliamentarians can. But the rules of business can be amended tomorrow. Acts of parliament can be passed through with the opposition's consent tomorrow. So if there is to be greater space for technocrats, for special assistants and advisors, that can be done if the PTI sits with its opposition parties. In fact, if the PTI sits with some of its own members, like Mr. Ghulam Sarwar Saab, other elected representatives who do feel that the pie might be shrinking for them, and push this through. It takes us back to what the fundamental business of government is, that is legislation. The PTI might want to move away now from ordinance making after their recent victories in the Senate and move towards big ticket reform and big ticket acts of parliament, including a greater technical role for special advisors.
Is there a possibility that People's Party, because now it seems to be alienated from PDM, might actually help the government in passing laws?
Certainly, but I wouldn't. I would just say though, Farrukh Saab, since People's Party, this conceit that the PMLN and Maulana Fazl Saab had, that Pakistan People's Party would resign, I think was quite ridiculous. Because let's look at this hypothetical for just 1 second. I won't take much of your time. If the PDM were to massively succeed and the government were also to fall, and everyone were to resign from the assemblies and elections were to be called tomorrow, Pakistan People's Party would get thinned all over again. So why go through all of that struggle, go through all of that heartbreak, go through all of those mass resignations if they have to come back to what they already have right now? So I think expectations from them, from the opposition side, were unrealistic. If they can be a partner in legislation for this government, that's good for this country.
Right. That's a good point. I hope that Asfar Asad Saab is with us. Asfar Saab, if you can hear me, you have worked with both the government and the opposition side. Do you think that our politicians have it in them that they can work together to actually push a broader agenda for the national interest in the parliament and work together?
Without actually criticizing anyone, I want to say, and I want to say very loudly, that the recent attitude and the practices of the opposition was highly irresponsible. Because this is now, the time, the need of the hour is to support any government, whether PTI or PPP or PMLN or any other government. We should support the government. They should continue for full 5 years term, and there is a need of continuity, because if you are starting a movement, the public rallies and everything, and sabotage the whole environment, I think this is damaging for the state. So state is more important, and all political parties should understand. And same time, this is also the responsibility of the sitting government also, to collaborate, to normalize, to, engage the political leadership of other parties, because this is the only way, and this will be helpful and beneficial for the sitting government also. Whether this is PMLN or PPP or Maulana Fazlur Rahman or anyone else. So there is a need of collaboration, there is a need of dialogue and consensus on some important national issues, because ultimately these important national issues and consensus on these issues is important, beneficial for the public. How long we will continue this drama of rallies and, you know, movement?
That point is well made, and I have to actually pluck it out and actually go back to something else that has been happening for past few weeks. Prime Minister of Pakistan wrote a letter to the Speaker National Assembly and Chairman Senate, and then you know, a committee for parliamentary seniors actually was created, and opposition was invited. But while the government keeps on trying to reach out to the opposition, the question right now is that the priority was given to laws or amendments that are relating to the transparency of elections and NAP, whereas the actual issues that are economic in nature are passed through, you know, the various references, various other means. The question is, shouldn't the government be focusing first on the economic agenda? Asfar Hassan Saab, are you with us? Okay. Let me move on. The same question to you, sir. Farid Saab. The question is that the agenda of that committee seems to be focusing more on political issues, not economic issues. Shouldn't the government first be approaching the economic matters? Because the leader of the opposition in the past had actually talked about a charter of economy, and we could have actually fixed the economy by doing that.
Farrukh Saab, you are very right about it, that at this moment, as I talked earlier, that the economic challenge is the biggest of it. And as you also mentioned about it, that yes, the government is, but at the same time, as Asfar Saab also mentioned at this moment, that the government and the opposition, they should sit together. But it is the time, because now the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf government has passed 2.5 years, and it's the time to deliver, it's the time to perform over it. Now it's the time to take the opposition on board. Now it's the time to take all those stakeholders on board, whether it should be the political situation, whether it should be the economic situation, and at this moment the rising inflation, the rising...
No, I get that. But when you have to, for the independence of or autonomy of the State Bank of Pakistan, you have to rely on an ordinance. And then when it comes to the idea of introducing EVMs, electronic voting machines, you actually call for a committee meeting. Shouldn't doesn't it actually show you that perhaps priorities are mixed up right now?
Yes, I also believe in this thing, that if it's the case of the State Bank, and if, as you mentioned about, that the government is taking the support of the ordinances in terms of the economy, it should not be. It should be a debate. It should be discussed, taking all the stakeholders, and it should not be taken, or it should not be executed with the help of the ordinances. I don't agree. I believe in this thing, that it should also be done in the same way as the government took the opposition parties and all those things with the as you told about the EVMs. So it should be done with the help of the parliament, with the help of all the political parties in the opposition. So it should be a concrete decision by the government.
That's a good point, because General Pervez Musharraf, when he was in power, did everything he could to actually protect the country. The only problem was because he was not consulting the people, there was no consensus, and then there was actually no support for his war, right? At this moment, where the agenda that you have brought in, actually in the longer term, is going to benefit the country. But since you are actually not engaging the parliament in actually dealing with these issues, like autonomy of SBP, that actually might actually create a lot of problems. You have listened to the opposition leaders actually making all kinds of allegations, and later on they were disproven actually.
But in principle, yes, Parliament should be engaged. Not only on economy, on every subject. And if we have not been able to do it in the past, we should be able to do it in the next 2.5 years. As far
2
as
years, actually. Almost 3 years.
We can calculate the exact month. But as far as the ordinance is concerned, bringing an ordinance does not mean that there can be no more debate. The debate is on. Even at this moment we are sitting, we are debating it. In Parliament it is being discussed. So, I mean, the debate is on. Yes, they perhaps had to meet some IMF conditions and so it had some timelines.
But with due respect, if you are going to sell reform, why actually say that we have to fulfill conditionalities of IMF? Tell us that SBP ideally has to be independent, autonomous. It can be held accountable by the parliament, and it should, and it can be held accountable by the honorable judiciary that I am sure will take notice if tomorrow something bad happens. But at this moment, actually put your heart into it.
For making
Very quickly, I'm told that
making institutions autonomous or independent, it is not something which we should criticize.
Yep.
Making institution independent, I think they should be able to perform better,
Right.
and that is the spirit of this effort. And it does not mean that it will be taken over by IMF. I
Right.
don't think so.
Absolutely.
It will be possible. If you go through the draft, it does not say that now it is IMF who is going to call the shots.
Right.
It is still the State Bank of Pakistan.
And I wish it happens, this debate actually happens in the Honorable Parliament, because you and I can debate, but we are not Parliament. We don't have
Yeah,
the
it
vote.
will be.
Asad Taim Saab, I'm told that we have to actually conclude, so I'm coming to you for conclusion with two very small snippets of questions. One, it seems to be the case that media in Pakistan and the pundits want to have it both ways. First, the complaint was that the government is not holding its ministers accountable for after every 100 days. When the changes come, they complain that, see, the government is not stable. On the other side, institutions should be independent. The moment a government actually tries to actually empower or give autonomy to institutions, all of a sudden we say that we are a sellout, and perhaps these things are going to compromise the national integrity. You conclude, sir, and taking into account these questions as well.
I don't think that criticism is very fair from the media side. Sustainable business model for far too long, and this government has heard that model. That also ramps up their criticism. On the other side, though, this government has not done much for freedom of expression, for concerted criticism of its policies, for the usual liberties that our journalists enjoy. So I would imagine that it would need to actually extend a hand to the press, to let the press do its job, and maybe the press then can also moderate the kind of criticism it is doing. I think as regards independent institutions, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf was formed around destroying elite capture. And it sends a bad message to its voters if petro-billionaires are made in charge of petroleum, the sugar millers and their relatives are made in charge of sugar, if the IMF's best people in Pakistan are made in charge with negotiating with the IMF. So going forward, hopefully, if these cabinet reshuffles continue to take place, a very positive thing about PTI is that it certainly self-corrects in a way that the other parties seemed a lot more hesitant in terms of doing in light of public opinion, continuing with course correction, continuing with constructive legislation, and hopefully we can see Pakistan with independent institutions and independent regulators.
Right. On that positive note, Barrister Asad Rahim Khan, I'm told that we have to conclude the program here. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Ahmad Jawad Sahab, always great having you in the show. Thank you very much for making it despite your own personal, compulsions. Fareed Rais, always enjoyable. Your presence is great and your contribution as well. Thank you very much. Asfar Ahsan Saab perhaps broke away earlier, but let me also thank him through the screen for his valuable participation as well. We have listened to our participants. This country keeps on facing a lot of challenges, right? Coronavirus, economic crisis, India as a problem, a regional and international problem, and then transformation in the region. At that time, you would think that political class actually cannot, it cannot come together for the national interest, it can at least come together for self-preservation by working together, because in parliamentary democracy, every political party benefits in the long run. But at this moment, it seems that somehow the opposition, while at moments it wants to charge ahead and attack the government, there are other times when the interests come in, they said they get divided and they cannot even work with each other but to talk about the government. And the government perhaps also needs to actually reach out to the opposition. Meanwhile, there's one thing that I have to say about the cabinet reshuffles and the overall idea of team building. PTI is a new party. PTI is a party that is party of change. But it has to embrace the fact that people also change as well. You cannot actually, draw a line in the sand and then say whosoever is out is all out. If you change your views, if you want to work, then perhaps there should be embracing of people who are working with you. This I say because there seems to be a lot of debate on Hafiz Sheikh did this, so this person did that. If they're with you today, I support them and thanks that they are with you. This was today's program. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.